All right, we're back here on the Chase Most podcast. Stats by Will is here. He's got actual basketball, college basketball takes to finally unleash. He's already doing the scoreboard, box score, screen caps on Stats by Will on his Twitter account, which are a delight. Georgetown fans and Louisville fans, you might want to look late from that one for the next couple days. But Will, we have actual college basketball to talk about. You're running. I'm getting my boot off. I'll be there at some point in 2023, it looks like. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'll give 3 updates here. 1, marathon is in 3 weeks. So getting pretty close. 2, the scoreboard thing is just, I promise, I am not trying to make fun of the schools. Not trying to make fun of like the fans. That's like, I recognize I've got like a minor follower base, and I'm trying to alert people to be as interested in this thing that I am interested in. So it's like when Louisville is losing to Bellarmine, who just jumped up to D1 2 years ago, it's like, you guys got to check this thing out. 3, excited to announce some new employment. I'm the new PR head for Twitter Blue. Things are going really well so far this week, and they've given us a lot of money. I blew it all on candles, but I think we're making some progress, and it's a good sign that people are making contents called Not Adam Schefter with a little verified tag next to it.
It's so bad. It is such a mess, and I've tried to explain it to my family a little bit, and it's just there's no point.
Oh, you will never catch me explaining anything Twitter related to my family.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep them away.
Well, it's not. I want to keep them away too. It's just more of why I'm frustrated about it, and explaining why this is a problem, and how this could affect what I'm doing with my job and my career and the podcast. Trying to explain that is difficult. As Cedric makes his way back on to the podcast. Will, you had a birthday this week. What did Cedric get you?
Nothing. He got up at 4 a.m. That was what he got me.
Ooh.
That was really
How does a
sweet
cat
of
get
him.
you up at 4 a.m.? What does he do? Is it nice at least? Is it a meow? Okay.
He meows, and he's just like, why haven't you fed me yet? So whenever the time changes, it throws him for a loop.
Oh, so same here with Khaleesi the dog.
I've realized domesticated animals are very routine based, and the second that his routine gets interrupted, whether it's we went out to dinner or the time change happens, he is just in a terrible mood the next day. He does not understand why I'm not feeding him at his 6 a.m., which is now 5 a.m. He does not understand the extra hour of sleep. He does not care about the extra hour of sleep. He wants to get up at his time.
Well, I mean, you're an early riser too, so it still kind of works out a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I do appreciate it because now I'm not having to wait until 8 a.m. for the sunrise on these runs. It's really weird when when the sun isn't rising until 8.
Yeah.
But now you get the trade-off of it's 5:30 as we're recording this, and the sun is almost all the way down.
Yeah. My wife hates it. Women, I found, very much hate the sun going away at 5:30, 5 o'clock. I've never had that conversation with my group of guy friends. I've never been like, God, this time change, isn't it depressing, it being dark at 5:30? It's never popped up. I don't know why. My mom, my wife, just women in my life, all very much opposed to it. Daylight savings time might get reversed just because of the women in our lives. Well, that's how it might work. Did you do a birthday dinner?
I'm sorry?
Did you do a birthday dinner somewhere?
Yeah. Stock and barrel.
Stock and barrel. There you go. How was it? What'd you order?
The Hurt Locker.
Okay. What's in that?
For people who have never been to Knoxville, it's a burger with, fried green tomatoes, pimento cheese, something else. And it is really freaking good.
Okay.
Best burger in Knoxville by some measure. The only one that comes close is Abridged.
Abridged. Oh, is that the one in West? Yeah, that one's really good. That one is very good. Have not had that in a long time. Yes, that is true. And it's something you would never guess when you go by there. You're not like, wow, I bet you this place has amazing burgers. That's cool. There's your East Tennessee Minute. Stats by Will. We have some college basketball to actually talk about. Specifically, the Tennessee Volunteers are back, and Tyreke Key might be a new devastating weapon for this year's Volunteer team. What did you make of the opener for the Vols?
So one, I was live and in action there on Monday night.
You were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one quick comment up top. Best student section showing for a season opener that I've been to by far. I was impressed. So normally I don't expect much because it's like, especially in this case, it's a Monday night. The next day is election day. Like that's generally a sign where I'm like, okay, I'm going to see a lot of families here, and there were some families and like old people. But if I read correctly, the Daily Beacon said Tennessee students reserved and used somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 tickets for that game, and it's like that's against 340th in Kent Palm, and that's 20% of your arena. That's pretty darn good. I'm genuinely very pleased with the student support on that front. But Tennessee's got some interesting things to it, right? So they took 2/3 of their shots from three, which is something they'd never done before as a program. That set a program record. And, something that I was noticing is, there's a lot of people who are all doing the rabble, rabble, rabble. Like they're all upset that Tennessee took all these threes. And, on one hand, it's like, yeah, you probably should have dominated at the rim against Tennessee Tech. But, if you watch the game, Tennessee Tech was like frequently putting 3-4 guys in the paint. Tennessee was able to get like some points at the rim and just by overpowering them. But it wasn't like the paint was wide open in this one, like I frankly anticipated it would be. Tennessee Tech like packed it in and was just like, look, if they're going to shoot a bunch of threes, we're going to live with it. And I wonder if that is going to be a strategy of sorts for like some teams. I don't think all teams. And if like Tennessee hits more threes, it'll be fine. I think Tennessee just had an off shooting night in a game they won by 32, mind you. But that was interesting. Tyreke Key's play was amazing. I think clearly I guess we're going to need a little more to say this definitively, but through 2 games, I think we're like pretty firmly on calling him like a guy who's come in well above expectation. Because this is like, I think when we were going over the Tennessee roster a month ago, and when I was looking at it for my blog, the expectation was like Tyreke Key is probably going to be the 6th or 7th man. He can get you points, and he could factor into like late game lineups. But it wasn't a deal where I was like, oh, Tyreke Key is going to lead the team in scoring. And after the Gonzaga exhibition and after this, it's kind of like, well, maybe he will. And
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. And he's like a classic bucket getter, right? Like he was averaging 20 a game at Indiana State when he was for 3 straight years the #1 focus in opposing game plans. So he's got all sorts of different ways to score, and he scores efficiently, which is nice. Very beautiful 3-point shot he's got. And that's really key because I think we can safely say through Gonzaga and now through Tennessee Tech, and it wasn't a shock that they did this because, it's not like they're going to win anyway. Everybody is using what I guess was like first, as you mentioned, Tom Crean's game plan, and is now like known as the Michigan game plan of more or less like doubling or 1.5ing Vescovy as long as he's on the court, and just saying, okay, Tennessee, we're going to give you 4 on 3.5 or even 4 on 3. If you can beat us, go for it. But we don't think you're going to be able to beat us. If Key stays like this good and consistent, and if Ziegler starts hitting from 3, teams are not going to be able to do that for much longer. Like, I would not be surprised if Santiago has to just sort of like suffer through this for a few weeks before teams adjust. If Key keeps shooting well, if Ziegler plays well, Phillips, Kamwa, Euros, even, etc. But Triple J too. But I think this is going to be a deal where like Vescovy is preseason first team All SEC for a reason, but he's not going to put up first team All SEC stats as long as defenses keep committing to what is honestly like a Steph Curry light defense for him.
I mean, they held them to 16 points in the first half. Like, that's the other part that people are forgetting.
No, the defense looked amazing.
Right. And I think that's something that we got to talk about, too. It's like, you can talk about doubling Vescovy and making Tennessee beat you in other ways offensively and stuff like that. But, like, the defense, I think, is even better than last year. I think this defense is going to be absolutely unstoppable for the majority of the season. I think they're going to be top 3 in defensive rating.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is going to be Clamp City. Julian Phillips looks great. I just a lot of the lineups they're going to throw out are just they're just so defense heavy. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Meshack, if you're talking about if you're talking about Kumar, if you're talking like there's just so many dudes that they're going to throw out, and I just they're going to be fine on that regard. And free throws were up because like that was another annoying thing. 9 for 9 from the line, and that's something that drove us crazy last year was just the free throw shooting in important moments for this team. But I'm not going to worry about Ziegler's shot, but I do think the fact that he took 12 threes tells me that like there's been an emphasis this offseason by the coaching staff to be like, you cannot be the 6-man engine that could and just kind of defer and kind of find a no. You've got to be, because Vescovi is going to get so much attention in the backcourt with you that you've got to be able to take those shots. You cannot look to pass those off if you're left open at the top of the key or all because he just loves driving and kicking so much. That's like one of his favorite things. And it's like, no, not anymore. You're gonna have to put these up. You're going to have to take these shots. Especially when Tyreke Key is not in the game. But I was very impressed with the rotation, the shot selection, and I'm okay with Ziegler going 2 for 12 every now and then, especially early on against these games. Get these shots up, build the confidence.
This game didn't matter, Yeah. I mean, like, I was like, 1% annoyed they didn't cover the KenPom spread to like help their rating? Sure, but who cares? It was like it's a 32-point win in a game they were favored by 34 in. Not a big deal. And yeah, like defensively, the key for Tennessee, and it's really through no fault of his own, he just is who he is like seemingly every lineup without Uroš Plavšić in it. And I mean, like the kind of like key on this is Meshack, right? Whereas like if Meshack is in, the defense becomes so much more versatile. But I noticed like immediately, anytime Plavšić was off, Tennessee was able to switch and, sort of had its limits if Ziegler's on. But Tennessee was at minimum able to switch 2 through 5. And then when they had Key out there, 1 through 5 defensively, like very, very similar to what Texas Tech did last year when Texas Tech was nigh unbreakable defensively. And if Tennessee can do that now, along with the already really good defensive structure they have, I mean, I'm with you on top 3, and I could be swayed to number 1 by season's end. I mean, that they have the most versatile personnel they've had to date under Barnes.
Also, I think we can't understate like Triple J coming off the bench and being good with it at this point.
And I don't think that's going to last. But
do you not?
I mean, no.
Who do you think they move?
Plavšić.
I don't know about that.
Or what I think might happen is that either Phillips goes to the bench for Triple J or Plavšić goes to the bench for I do. Because I mean, Frank, like it wasn't really, like Uroš looked okay, but it was kind of like I think we learned last year you can't count on him to be very consistent, and I do just like pops off from the page in a different way that Plavšić just cannot, and it's not really his fault. It's just Idu's got the higher upside,
Absolutely. We'll see what happens by and large, but good opening game from the Vols. They're going to be all right. The most embarrassing opening week performance for you, Will, was who?
Easiest pick of all time here. USC, what is up with you? What are you doing? So not only... To me, this is like the basketball version of just being like, hey, you know what would be a great idea? Let's invite App State to play us in football. Really stupid. Don't do that. From experience. But USC, like, guys, you did not have to play Florida Gulf Coast at home. It's been like 10 years since Andy Enfield left. The time to do that was 10 years ago to like pay them back for taking their coach. Like bring them out, pay them $600,000 or whatever, send them home. Why would you do this now? I mean, like, they should have won this game regardless. But one, extremely low upside to scheduling this opponent in particular. And two, they looked god-awful defensively, which is a really alarming thing for a program that's been pretty much nails defensively the last 2 or 3 seasons. And, like, yes, that helped a lot when they had Evan Mobley on their team and Isaiah Mobley too. But like they still, I mean, I'm looking now, they brought back about half of the minutes from last year's roster. It's an above average roster in terms of Division I experience. Like this should not have happened. And yet, like I honestly thought they looked horrendous. They couldn't shoot. They were terrible defensively. Got demolished on the boards by a shorter opponent. Um, the good news for them is like there's clearly like recovery time. So and they get to go to the battle for Atlantis in 2 weeks now, and they play a winnable game against BYU to start before likely playing Tennessee, which we'll see how that goes for them if it's them. But I mean, you look at their schedule, it's like, okay, if you get blown out at home by FGCU, you get Vermont at home, and Vermont is always pretty frisky. You play Auburn in mid-December. That's not looking so good anymore. You play Colorado State, and we know what Colorado State can do. Like, this season can turn sour really fast for them in a way that I don't think people are anticipating. And if it goes south really quick, it's not like I think Andy Enfield would be in the hot seat, but you kind of got to start to question, like, aside from the Evan Mobley year, what has he really accomplished?
Could they do better? Is that a good job?
Yes. I mean, I think USC in general and Stanford too are both like good jobs that just either A, don't have the energy, or B, have not had the right coaches. Like, I mean, we forget that like Tim Floyd did really well at USC. 3 tournament bids in 4 seasons. He was good. Henry Bibby, that is a real name. I don't know if he's like Mike Bibby's a relative. Who cares? But he made like several NCAA tournaments. He made an Elite Eight. Like, it's not as hard to win at USC as it looks. So,
does it matter that UCLA is up so much right now?
It shouldn't. Like, both should be able to coexist, I think. And I mean, they did in that year where like USC made the Elite Eight, UCLA made the Final Four. UCLA is clearly the ascendant program that's much cooler. Frankly, like the UCLA brand and image is way cooler than USC's. I'm sorry. It's like, not only is it just like the history, but it's like the UCLA script looks better. The arena looks better. They do need to come up to speed on that front. But at the same time, this should be a program that's making the Sweet 16 like every other year. They should be alongside UCLA and Arizona, like the 3 dominant-ish forces in the Pac-12, especially when like, Colorado's kind of been down lately. Stanford's not achieving up to par. Washington is really blowing it. Arizona State, this should be like their time to rise, and they look like they're about to miss the tournament. And this looks like a 3-bid Pac-12, which is horrendous after the last 2 years.
And I mean, new administration, we'll see. Bohm did not hire Andy Enfield, and he's obviously been there a long time. Lincoln Riley in the building, a lot of NIL money coming through. That maybe a change is a possibility at USC. We'll see.
Runner-up for this award, and my God, did they come real close to claiming it with a bullet, was TCU. Another one of it's like, what are you guys doing? But for a different reason. What are you doing almost losing to a team ranked 361st in KenPom?
It's fair.
That's foolish behavior. You can't be out here doing it. Not after all the hype, and honestly, I thought deserved hype they got. Your first performance cannot be that. Like, if you win by 19 against a terrible team, that's fine. Like, just say like, oh, we shot poorly. Having to come back, I mean, they were down by 4 with a minute left. So, and I looked into this, like, while that game was winding down, entering opening night, dating back to 2003, teams favored by 30 or more. You want to know what their record was?
I'm ready.
540-0. No team favored by 30 or more had ever lost. TCU was favored by 35. It would have been the literal biggest upset in college basketball in decades.
Man.
So, they almost ruined their season on night 1. Whereas, they live to see another day, and really USC does too. But like those are two performances you just don't want to think about as a fan.
On a positive note, the most impressive opening week was who? Well,
it's kind of hard to name like a team that like truly overachieved, because this week has kind of sucked, honestly, in terms of like good games. When the best game is Memphis Vandy, it's just like, what are we doing here? But really impressed by Houston. Not that it's like a shocker. Houston is Houston now. They're going to be really good every year. But
many are saying Houston does not have a problem.
That's right. Northern Colorado is a solid mid-major team. Like they're gonna battle for the Big Sky crown this year. I would be surprised if they finished below top 3. They're not a bad team. And Houston went out there and beat them by 47. Like they held Northern Colorado to 36 points. And that's a Northern Colorado team with one of the most efficient scorers in all of college basketball and high volume scorers. I hope this is right. Dalen Koontz. Don't hit the pause button on me. Yeah. But they held that guy to 9 points. And it wasn't like he didn't take any shots. He got stuffed. Runner up here, St. Mary's. Results pending because they play Vermont as we're recording this later tonight. Anytime you hold Max Asmus from Oral Roberts to 14, I'm looking at your defense and I'm going, damn, they're good. And I am coming closer and closer to the opinion that they've joined like North Texas and San Diego State as like the best defensive systems in mid-major basketball. St. Mary's, they're the only team in the West Coast Conference, I think, that could potentially beat Gonzaga this year. So those are my two.
There you go. Big Drew Pember guy, are you? Stats are Will. You know, it'd be fun this year. Mr. Pember, UNC Asheville legend. Asheville, one of our favorite places. Go visit Asheville if you're not already. It's a very delightful place. No. Pember, former Tennessee Vol, now lighting it up at UNC Asheville. Man, big what if. Tennessee, I think Rob Lewis was talking about on VolQuest this week that like that was not a Tennessee call. Like I think they would have preferred to keep him in the program, but he went elsewhere, so you can't really do anything when the guy leaves. But Pember, he's an opening week winner, right? And someone that we should probably watch going forward. Do you think this is sustainable, that he could be one of the higher points per game guys across college basketball this year?
Yeah, I mean, like he did it last year. He was extraordinary in conference play in particular. I will say, like, whenever UNC Asheville played like legitimately good teams, not UCF, last season, his results went way down. Like, so they played 3 games against quadrant 1 and 2 opponents last year, and he shot 5 for 22. But that's just 3 games, not a huge deal. Pember, the exciting thing about him is like there are certain guys where it's just like it didn't work out for you at this high major school, but it's going to work out really well for you at this level. But he's achieved well beyond what I thought was possible for him. I thought like him going to UNC Asheville was like, okay, he's going to be a solid starter. I did not think he would be Big South preseason player of the year, but one, he's got this very funny new haircut now that I highly encourage everybody to look up. Just Google Drew Pember UNC Asheville. Great hair. But two, this was a guy who is not even the best player in his high school team, but he now like I don't know if he'll keep this up, but I'm willing to say like he is going to be in the running at season's end for best free throw shooting by a guy like 6'8" or taller, because he shot 86% from the line last year and went 12 for 13 against UCF in that double overtime win. There's like a real chance the 6'10" center shoots 90% from the line, which would be insane. Like
he led
that
the Big
does
South
not
in blocks
happen.
last year.
Sorry?
He led the Big South in blocks last year, and he was first in free throw percentage just in the Big South as a whole a season ago.
Yeah, and he draws like 6 fouls per 40. He drew 9 fouls in that game against UCF, which is just truly amazing stuff.
His usage is 43% this year.
Yeah.
For comparison, folks, like Trae Young is at 31. And if you watch a Hawks game, you're like, wow, this runs a lot. Like that is bonkers. That's Luka usage rate right now. That's insane. Especially for a 6'10" guy and doing what he does. It's not like, I don't know. Beard and Bulldog legend, Drew Pember. So, who was the best player on that team, by the way? You said he wasn't the best player in his high school
team. It was Quez Glover, who's now at Samford.
Okay.
But, like, I mean, what's exciting about this is, one, it's like, I actually heard this on the MGO blog podcast to pimp them out again. Brian Cook saying, like, he can enjoy Zach Charbonnet being good at UCLA because of Blake Corum. Where it's just like, oh, this isn't a missed opportunity. We have this good thing, and I get to root for this guy doing this good thing somewhere else. That's how I feel about Drew Pember, where it's like Tennessee looks like a legitimate top 5 team, and Drew Pember is the Big South player of the year. And there's a real chance like the Big South doesn't have a defined best team. Like you go to Ken Palm right now, I know it's early in the season, but it's a four-way projected tie at the top at 11-7, and then two teams right behind them at 10-8. Like there's six teams in a range from 161st to 215th. Asheville could easily rise out of that pile to make the NCAA tournament. And who wouldn't? Like, one, I would not want him to be on the UNC Asheville side. That's like Tennessee's 15 seed, for example. But if he's somebody else's problem, more power to him. I would be happy to root for that.
There you go. We'll see what happens. Drew Pember, though, do you know he has another year of eligibility after this year?
That's the thing. What if, and hear me out, given that Tennessee's got some front court uncertainties of their own, what if Drew Pember
the perfect
comes back?
Cade Alexander developer, Drew Pember.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Drew Pember comes back. Justin Gainey's son comes in eventually from USC Upstate, where he hit like 50% of his threes last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
I wouldn't rule out Pember back on the balls next year.
That honestly would be really good. It would be, for me, way better and really way funnier than Cade Mays coming home.
I just think folks should prepare themselves. I would not be surprised if they reopen that door.
It would be huge for me personally. And huge for. Do you remember that video where it's like the guy would like tweet it at Tennessee's opponents in the replies, and it was called Drew Pember Minutes.
Mm-mm.
And it was just like pictures of Drew Pember with the caption like, he's effing playing. And then the final slide was, F you, we won. It's such a good video. I have to find it.
I need to see
We'll
it.
put it in the show notes.
There you go. Wyoming, for the real sickos out there, know that their player of the year, who was figuring to have a great season, he is out for 6 to 8 weeks. This is rough for Graham Ike. How big of a loss is this for college basketball and for Wyoming?
Well, huge loss for college basketball. And one, not a sickos team. I'm offended by that. They're good.
No, I'm just saying, if you're like, there's someone outside of Will, and if you went to Wyoming, like, look, I'm pro Wyoming and all that, but if you're like on Tuesday night and you're like, it's 10:30, it's time for me to fire up Wyoming basketball.
That's no, you just know
stuff.
Ball. You're a ball knower.
Yeah, you're a hooper.
You're not like one of those sickos committee freaks. Anyway, no apologies. Mm-hmm. But it's bad because like he was, unless I'm mistaken, the Mountain West preseason player of the year. Like he is a master of post moves. I freaking loved watching them play last year because Wyoming truly played like unlike anybody else. I need to pull up the synergy stats, but at one point last year, and like generally the traditional average percentage of this is like 10% of your possessions. It was almost 40% of Wyoming's possessions ended in an EK post up, which is just like otherworldly. It was like EK and Maldonado and nobody else. Okay, it fell to 29% by year's end. That was still number one in America by a full 5%. Purdue was next up. So if you're like outposting up Purdue, really freaking crazy. But it makes them interesting in a new way because one, I think Jeff Linder is a wonderful coach. I would recommend a few different Pac-12 programs hire him before it's too late. But last year when EK was off the court, they played much faster. Like their pace went up by almost 3 possessions per game on that scale. They had way more transition opportunities. And it makes sense because like when you roster this guy, you commit to a lot of post play. But when he was off the court, much faster, much looser, more threes, more drives to the rim with Maldonado and the supporting cast. So I don't think they're going to be as good, but they're now going to be interesting in a different way than they were before. And so they're kind of lucky that they don't play many good opponents in the non-conference. Like the first NCAA tournament level team they're going to play is on December 3rd when they play Grand Canyon. So they've got a while before they play a good team. But that being said, I'm interested to see, like, since he's going to be out for that game, I would like to tune in and see, are they able to push the pace? Are they able to hold up defensively and at the rim without him? So, yeah, it's a bummer because I really like watching him play, but I'm glad we don't lose him for the full year, like it looks like we are with Fardaws Amac.
Absolutely. A team we have not mentioned yet that I think you spent a lot of time thinking about and whether or not this could be the worst team. Not great when you're trying to win the Mo Wagner sweepstakes. It's your
DJ Wagner
or DJ Wagner.
That would be awesome if Mo Wagner was just like, hey man, I've got 1 year of eligibility left and I'm coming home to Kenny Payne.
Excuse me, DJ Wagner.
Oh my god, I'm imagining Mo Wagner like walking through the streets of Louisville and just like he's posing in front of the Yum Center with the KFC bucket on his head. That's a new frontier right there in Louisville excellence.
Excuse me. Very much not Mo Wagner.
He's going to Bardstown Road, and he's not coming home until 6 a.m. Mo Wagner is getting lit at shenanigans.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
Louisville, they're bad. And my question to you, Will, they're going to be historically bad this year. Is this going to be a historically bad Louisville team?
So it really says a lot when they lost last night, being Wednesday night, to Bellarmine, a team that they were, at least per Torvik, 12-point favorite against. I think it was like 9 on the real line. And my first instinct was like, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
It's never good.
Yeah, that's never a good thing. I mean, like... So, if you haven't watched Bellarmine play basketball, you should do that. They're an amazing offense to watch play. They don't dribble. But whenever you shoot 11 for 28 from 3 against a team you're a near double-digit favorite against and you lose, and it could be argued you weren't that bad defensively, things are going to get real ugly for you real fast. And I was kind of worried about this when they had the exhibition against Lenore Ryan, and, it wasn't pretty by any stretch, but, like you could just say like, oh, they had a bad shooting day, first game jitters, whatnot, whatever excuse you want to make, it's an exhibition. Nobody cares. It got worse to me when they came out and they played Chaminade, the, I think, also Division II team. I just know they're like the sacrificial lamb of the Maui Invitational every year. But, like Chaminade led for most of that game. They had a dude score 30 on Louisville. Louisville won, but they had to get some officiating help to do it. And then you lose to Bellarmine, who is projected to be like mid-pack in the Atlantic Sun, like not one of the better teams, not Liberty. The source of this issue is that they don't have a point guard. Which, if you have watched a basketball game, sort of a key thing for being good at basketball is like having a guy who can run point. Tennessee did a real interesting experiment with this when they played Wisconsin like 3 years ago, and they had Devontae Gaines run the point. And shockingly, Tennessee lost that game by 20 at home. So that's sort of what you're playing with. They don't have a point. Like L. Ellis is who they have running point. He's the best player on their team, but he's a 2 guard. He's not meant to run any sort of offensive system. Their 3, and this is going to make Tennessee fans giggle, is Brandon Huntley Hatfield. He's the small forward. He played the 4 and usually the 5 at Tennessee. He is playing the 3 because like
he
Kenny
should
Payne
only be playing the 5.
Yeah, only play the 5 at most the 4. He's playing small forward. And it's like, I do not understand what it is they are doing most of the time, where it's like, the best player right now is probably this freshman, Mike James. He's a decent scorer. Not Mike Jones. I know, it'd be nice. But like, they're playing Bellarmine, man. And L. Ellis played every minute last night. He played the full 40. That's not what you want against any mid-major. They're giving Zan Payne, who is Kenny's son, legitimate minutes. Sidney Curry, who is like a backup's backup. I mean, like, this roster is horrendous. Top to bottom horrendous. They did not do very well in the portal. Recruiting has not been hot so far. I said like a while ago, you need to give Kenny some time. And I'm still of that opinion. But Saturday, they play Wright State. Next Tuesday, they play App State. If they don't go 2-0 in those, this is horrible to say. If they don't go 2-0, they might start 0-7 because after App State is Arkansas, Maryland, Miami, Florida State. Florida State's bad too, but Florida State is bad in a much different way than Louisville is bad. Florida State's bad because half their roster is hurt or suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville is bad because they came into the season with a horrendous roster. Like, I mean, I look at this right now, and so the Arkansas thing, they're part of a tournament. It's part, I think it is Maui, actually, now that I'm looking at it, which is hilarious, where, I mean, they're likely to go 0-3. So let's say, courteously, they win one of Wright State and App State. They're very likely to go 0-3 in Maui. So that's going to put them, that's going to put them at 1-8, heading into a home game with Western Kentucky on December 14th.
When does it get too much? Is it just this whole year's a mulligan, none of it matters?
So here's all the games that I am confident Ken Palm is confident they will win. And confident meaning like 70% or above. Wright State, App State, Florida A&M, Lipscomb. That's 4 wins that you can say are like should be sure things. And I mean, like, given the way college basketball works, they're going to win more than that. Like, Ken Palm has them favored in 9. But even so, a year where Louisville goes 9-22 and like 4-16 in the ACC, like, that's probably above the Mendoza line for saying, like, all right, Kenny, that was god awful and it made us want to pour Clorox in our eyes. But we're willing to give you another try. I think, I mean, shoot, I don't know what his contract looks like off the top of my head, but anything where they're not at least like, I don't know, like would you say that like 2-18 would be enough?
2-18 is pretty bad because like Louisville is just one of those jobs that, I mean, they have an expectation of Final Four. Not like there's just, I mean, at Kentucky 2-18, you're gone. Like, I think part of it.
I think at Tennessee 2-18, you might be gone now.
Yeah, that's probably true. And also, it doesn't help. It's like one of those things with coaching staffs, like new coach, especially like first time coaches. You want to hire a great staff around you to kind of acclimate you to being the head coach, and you want to have people have been there. If I'm Kenny Payne, or like I'm a little bit nervous about that part of it, being Danny Manning and Nolan Smith are assistant coaches on this team right now. So if it gets bad enough, there are options, even just internally, to turn to, because I think Nolan Smith will get an opportunity sooner rather than later, and I think we'll see what happens with Danny Manning. I think he gets another one before it's all said and done. So I don't know.
So here's the benchmarks. I went to College Basketball Reference.
Yeah.
Always a good thing to be saying. So Louisville's worst ever win-loss percentage in conferences, 29%. So that's roughly 6-14, which is what they did last year during the semi-Chris Mack season. Back in like the 30s, they had some seasons where they went like 1-18, 2-14. In real basketball, where it's like, teams are actually like, you're not playing like, Farmhouse University or whatever they were called back then. The worst record ever is 12-20. So, man, if he gets to like 22 losses, they really might pull the plug. Which is crazy to think about, but this is Louisville, man. Like, I mean, like, it wouldn't be that irrational. Louisville shouldn't be this bad. No matter who got fired, and especially in the portal era. Like the excuse that I've been seeing, and I hate that we continue to harp on this because I do feel bad for their fans in some aspect. The excuse I've been seeing is that, they had the NCAA sanctions and investigations hanging over them. Nobody wanted to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guarantee you could have found a point guard from like even the freaking Southland Conference. Like from Alabama A&M or somebody. Like you could have found a point guard that is capable of running an offense. Like you could have tried. You could have Zakai Ziegler was an emergency recruit. He was not supposed to play until it was revealed that he was really good. Go get yourselves an emergency recruit point guard. I mean, like, I don't know. I would like for the Kenny Payne thing to work out for obvious reasons. I think it's amazing he gets this opportunity. And I think it's really cool for a black head coach to be running like one of college basketball's most storied and best programs. Like, that's stuff I want to see in this sport. But I mean, like, we have to be real here. If things go south quickly, like if they're staring down like 6-25, yeah, it's hard to see where the support would be for season number 2.
Man, bad in Louisville right now. But we shall see.
Horrendous vibes.
Yes.
They do need. Honestly, if Mo Wagner came back right now, they would get to 500. That's a good basketball player.
Can you imagine though, like DJ being like watching this, right? I mean, that's just
no wonder DJ picked Kentucky, right?
Yeah. Like, there's just no chance for a flip. Like, this was an opportunity to see, like, oh, maybe there's something there. No, I mean, the one thing is, like, you'll play right away. The whole offense will go right through you right away, DJ.
You might play 38 minutes a night if you came right now, and you're a 3-star recruit.
Yeah. Last thing, we'll wrap up with this, Will. Stats that have caught your eye in week 1 of the college basketball season.
Nothing huge, just because we've had, such little to go off of. But a couple of interesting ones. So one, as it stands, oh dang, it got beat last night. But it stood until last night. The largest deficit overcome was TCU beating Arkansas Pine Bluff by 20. That's going to be funny all year.
Mm-hmm.
But no, so last year there was not a single upset of a team where they were like at 2% or lower to win, and there still hasn't been this year. And there wasn't in the COVID year either. But I gave that like a break because it was the COVID year. Like, people weren't playing normal schedules. So to give you an inkling of how big that USC loss was, FGCU entered the game with a 2.8% chance of winning. That would have been the 4th biggest upset of all of last season. So, I mean, it's funny, but it is like a legitimately stunning thing for USC, not only to lose, but to get smoked like that on their home court. And I mean, having watched the game, 13 was generous. It could have been 20 plus. So we got to see them figure something out soon.
We shall see. statsbywill.substack.com. Rolling, cooking with fire, cooking with grease, whatever you want to say here. We got household names. We got Know Your Opponent. We've got NCAA Weekly Volume 1, Weekly Volume 1.5 bonus. We've got all kinds of great content over on the Substack. What would you like to promote as we wrap up here? Stats by Will.
I got a lot more coming. So next week, I'm planning. So the NCAA Weekly series is going to be like the big sell for non-Tennessee fans. That's one where it's like each week, that's going to be like a breakdown of something, whether it's the coaches that I would like to see, or like programs that need to be altered, or like a really important game of the week, or there's hopeful like coach interviews coming, but different analysis of that sort. The plan as of now is likely going to be analyzing these first 3 St. Mary's games. I'm really in on them, and I'm particularly interested. They play North Texas on Sunday. That's the Will Warren game of the week. Don't watch the aircraft carrier game. That thing's going to suck. Watch North Texas and St. Mary's play on, I believe this is right, the WCC network, which I think is just like, do you remember when it was like Stadium and WatchStadium.com, and it was like you would watch Florida Atlantic play MTSU on there for some reason?
Yes.
I think that's the new thing, but for these conferences. So whatever it may be, North Texas and St. Mary's are 2 of the 3 best defensive systems in mid-major basketball. If either team breaks 60, it will be an act of God. But it will not be like a nasty Texas Tech, Tennessee type act of God. It will be like, this is just really sound and fun to watch. It's like the last year's college football national championship. It's just like really good athletes making really good plays. So probably have a breakdown of that, more Tennessee stuff. Next week's top 5 is my Apple varieties. This week was the favorite running songs. So a lot of good stuff. I've got messages from There's an old person who clicked on the article today and was like, "Hey man, I listened to NWO by Ministry for the first time, and that is one of the scariest things I've ever heard." I was like, "Buddy, you were not the intended audience. I'm sorry."
Hey, it's a customer, man.
It's a customer.
Yeah, that's it. Life works in mysterious ways. You never know what kind of impact you might have on somebody. Will, this is a positive. Run with this. This is great. I like it. Goodness. Stats by Will. College basketball is back. Cedric is through the roof. Shout out to Ced. Happy birthday again, my friend. And we will talk next week.
Thanks for having me on.